Israel is one of those countries that almost everyone has heard something about. But what is surprising is that the reality here is almost always different from expectations. For some, Israel is a holy land filled with ancient history. For others, it is about high technology, the military, and constant tension. Some imagine a hot country by the sea, while others see it as a place where life is never truly calm. And in a way, all of this is true at the same time. The first impression of Israel can be very intense. Even at the airport, you can feel a unique atmosphere. Everything seems more emotional, faster, and more alive. People speak loudly, gesture actively, argue, laugh. After quieter countries, you notice it immediately. Israel lives by its own rhythm, and this rhythm is impossible to confuse with anything else. Here, ancient history literally stands side by side with modern life. On the same street, you may see old stone buildings that are hundreds of years old, right next to modern skyscrapers and offices of technology companies. But the most important thing is the feeling of energy. Israel does not feel like a calm country. It feels like a country that is constantly in motion, and that is exactly what both attracts and exhausts people at the same time.
Israel is a small country, so small that you can drive across it in just a few hours. And yet, within this small territory, an incredible number of different worlds coexist. There are modern cities with expensive neighborhoods and business centers. There are ancient streets where time seems to have stopped. There is desert, mountains, the sea, and green landscapes in the north of the country. The climate also changes very quickly. One region may feel cool, and just a couple of hours later, you can find yourself in intense heat. But the main contrast of Israel is its people. People from different cultures, languages, and traditions live here. Jews from Europe, the Middle East, Africa, the former Soviet Union, and many other parts of the world. Arabs, Druze communities, religious groups, and secular society. And all of this exists side by side, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in tension. But it is exactly this mixture that makes Israel completely unique.
Israeli cities are very different from one another. Tel Aviv is modern, fast-paced, and expensive. It is a city of technology, business, nightlife, and constant movement. There is a feeling that people here never stop. Jerusalem is completely different, more calm, more profound, and emotionally more complex. History can literally be felt in the air. Many say this city cannot truly be explained. It can only be experienced. Haifa is more relaxed and greener. The southern cities are hotter and quieter. But there is one thing that unites almost all of Israel: the feeling of life concentrated in a small space. Everything is close together here. People live close to one another. The cities are filled with movement, conversations, and noise. For some, this creates a sense of energy. For others, a feeling of constant noise and exhaustion.
Israel is considered one of the most developed countries in the region, especially in the field of technology. It is even called the startup nation. The country truly has a strong IT sector, a high level of innovation, and a large number of international companies. Many professionals move here specifically for work opportunities. But behind the high salaries lies another reality. The cost of living in Israel is extremely high. This is especially noticeable when it comes to housing, food, and services. Even people with good incomes often say that expenses are constantly felt. Competition in the job market is also intense. In addition, language plays a major role. English helps, but for full integration, Hebrew is essential. Many new immigrants have to start from scratch, validate their diplomas, and gradually adapt to the system.
Israel regularly ranks among the countries with the highest cost of living, and this becomes noticeable almost immediately. Prices for food, rent, transportation, and restaurants can surprise even those who are used to expensive European countries. Housing is especially costly. In major cities, renting an apartment can consume a huge portion of income. For many people, buying property becomes an extremely difficult goal. At the same time, the quality of housing does not always match the price.
High expenses gradually change people's lifestyles. Many become more careful with spending, search for balance, and plan their budgets more thoughtfully. But there is another side to it. Israelis know how to enjoy life even when everything around them is expensive. Cafes are always full. Beaches are crowded with people. Cities remain lively and energetic. This creates an interesting contrast between financial pressure and the ability to enjoy everyday life.
When people talk about Israel, the topic of security appears almost immediately. For many outside the country, it becomes the main image associated with Israel. News reports, conflicts, and political tension create the impression that life here exists in a constant state of fear. But the reality is far more complex and much deeper. Yes, security issues are truly part of everyday life. They are taken seriously here. Security checks at shopping centers, surveillance cameras, and the visible presence of soldiers in public spaces are all seen as a normal part of the environment. For someone visiting for the first time, this atmosphere may feel unusual and even tense. But what is truly surprising is how quickly local people adapt to this rhythm. Israelis continue to live full lives. They go to work, spend time with friends, relax on the beaches, start businesses, travel around the country, and make plans for years ahead. Even during periods of tension, there is rarely a feeling that life has completely stopped. And this is what surprises many foreigners the most. In Israel, people learn to value ordinary things much more deeply. Simple meetings with loved ones, family dinners, evening walks, all of these gain a special meaning. At the same time, psychological pressure still exists. The constant flow of news, discussions about politics, and security concerns become part of everyday culture. People get used to living in a state of heightened awareness, even if outwardly it is barely noticeable. This is especially noticeable for those who move here from calmer countries. It takes time to adapt not only to the language and culture, but also to the inner feeling of the country itself. However, there is another side to this reality. Israel has created one of the most advanced security systems in the world. People feel that the state places enormous importance on safety. And for many, this creates a sense of protection, despite the difficult situation around them. As a result, Israel can feel both tense and incredibly alive at the same time. And it is exactly this combination that makes it so unusual.
Israel's healthcare system is considered one of the most advanced, not only in the Middle East, but in the world. Many foreigners who move here notice the high level of technology, modern equipment, and the quality of medical specialists. Healthcare here is viewed not simply as a service, but as an essential part of society itself. Almost every resident has medical insurance that provides access to basic care. This creates a sense of stability and confidence that, in case of need, a person will not be left without support. One of the strongest aspects of Israeli medicine is diagnostics. Great importance is placed on early detection of diseases, prevention, and continuous monitoring of health. Israel is also known for its medical research and innovation. Many technologies and treatment methods that later spread to other countries are first developed here. The country is especially strong in areas such as oncology, cardiology, reproductive medicine, and rehabilitation. That is why people from around the world come to Israel for treatment or medical consultations. But like any system, it has its own challenges. Sometimes patients must wait to see certain specialists. Public healthcare can become overloaded, especially in large cities. For this reason, many residents purchase extended insurance plans or use private clinics. This allows them to receive care more quickly and comfortably. Another interesting aspect is how seriously Israelis themselves treat health. Medical checkups, tests, and preventive care are a normal part of everyday life. As a result, the healthcare system becomes not just a service, but an important part of the country's culture.
Israel is often associated with sunshine, and indeed, the warm climate is one of the reasons why many people find life here comfortable. For most of the year, the weather remains sunny and dry. Winters are mild, and snow is rare in most regions. For those tired of long, cold seasons, this becomes a major advantage. But Israel's climate is not only about comfort. In some areas, the summer heat can be extremely intense. Temperatures rise so high that daytime activity noticeably slows down. People try to spend less time outdoors during the hottest hours. Over time, life itself begins to adapt to the climate. Late evening walks, nighttime gatherings, and activity after sunset all become part of everyday life. The sea plays a huge role in the country's lifestyle. The Mediterranean coast is constantly filled with people. Beaches here are not a tourist luxury, but a normal part of daily life. After work, many head to the water simply to relax and recharge. But Israel's nature is not only about the sea. Despite the country's small size, the landscapes change very quickly. In the south, there are desert regions with almost alien-like scenery. The north is greener and softer. There are mountains, canyons, nature reserves, and areas with completely different atmospheres. Sometimes just a few hours of driving is enough to feel as though you have entered a different climate and a different world. The desert plays a particularly special role. For many people, it becomes a symbol of Israel itself. It creates a sense of space and silence that sharply contrasts with the dense and noisy cities. This natural diversity creates a unique feeling. The country is small, yet visually and emotionally incredibly rich.
People in Israel leave a strong impression on almost everyone who visits the country for the first time. Israelis rarely seem cold or distant. On the contrary, they are emotional, direct, and highly active in communication. After more reserved countries, this can feel unexpected. People here often speak loudly, quickly, and very directly. They may interrupt one another, argue passionately, and express emotions openly. But this kind of behavior does not necessarily mean conflict. For the local culture, it is simply a natural style of communication. Because of this directness, many foreigners initially perceive Israelis as rude. But over time, it becomes clear that behind it lies not a desire to offend, but a habit of being as open and honest as possible. At the same time, Israelis can be extremely supportive. In difficult situations, many are willing to help complete strangers. This becomes especially noticeable during crises or emergency events. Family holds a central place in society. Family ties are very strong here. Gatherings, holidays, and traditions carry enormous importance. Religion also plays a major role. Even people who consider themselves secular often remain deeply connected to cultural and historical traditions. Israel is a country where the past is felt very strongly. History is present here almost everywhere in everyday life. And that is exactly why Israeli culture feels so rich and multi-layered.
Israel evokes very different emotions in people. For some, it becomes a place where they want to stay forever. For others, it is a country that is difficult to get used to. One of its biggest advantages is considered to be the high level of technology and healthcare. You can truly feel the sense of modernity and constant progress here. Many people also appreciate the climate. The ability to live near the sea, see sunshine most of the year, and spend a lot of time outdoors greatly affects quality of life. Another important feature is the country's energy. Israel feels alive. There is rarely a sense of boredom or complete stillness. But at the same time, there are serious challenges. The high cost of living becomes a test even for people with good incomes. Housing, food, and services require major expenses. In addition, the country's constant emotional intensity is not suitable for everyone. The noise, the density of life, the fast pace, and the tension can become exhausting over time. Adaptation for newcomers is not always easy either. The language, mentality, and social dynamics require time and personal flexibility. That is why Israel cannot be called a universal country for every person.
Israel is impossible to describe briefly or in a simple way. It is a country of contrasts where countless different realities exist at the same time. Here, ancient history stands side by side with the technologies of the future. Near loud and modern cities, there are places that have barely changed for hundreds of years. Israel can feel difficult. It can be exhausting with its intensity, speed, and emotional atmosphere. But at the same time, it possesses an incredible life energy. Many people say that it is here they begin to feel life more deeply than ever before. Even ordinary things seem more meaningful. Israel does not try to be convenient or perfect.
It remains very real, and that is exactly why it provokes such strong emotions. Some people fall in love with this country almost immediately. Others realize they could never live at such a pace. But very few people remain indifferent to Israel. Israel is a country that cannot be understood only through news reports, photographs, or other people's stories. It has to be seen with your own eyes. You have to hear the noise of the streets, feel the hot air, watch the sunsets over the sea, and understand the unique rhythm in which people live here. It is a place where the past and the future exist at the same time, a place where life feels especially vivid. And perhaps that is exactly why Israel remains one of the most unusual countries in the world.